Welcome to the dark corners of Paranormal M, where mysteries lurk in the shadows. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Drop a comment if you feel like helping. And embark on a journey into the unknown. Prepare for the unexpected. My mom was not my mom. I attached some screenshots of The Sims. It was the only way I could truly think to explain the weird-ass layout of the house I used to live in. We lived in a community of sorts with houses that were kind of connecting every two houses. That is why one side of the house has no windows. If the room has no lights, it's because that is empty wall space. My bedroom was above the garage, which we actually used as a finished room for my older brothers in the summer and spring. This was winter. Also, I didn't share it with any of my brothers because I was the only girl. The stairs were walled off with what was open window area like a triangle following the stairs. The same goes for the window thing by my bedroom door. And my brother had sort of closet doors like the one in the picture to the open area to their room, as our living room ceiling kind of went up to meet the top of those doors, leaving vast open space above the living room. The last thing to keep in mind is the box that controlled all electricity in the house is outside of the house for whatever reason and was located by the windows in the play area downstairs. The circuit breaker. At the time all of this happened, I must have been about 9 years old. I was in bed one night and I heard the radio in the kitchen going. My mom would almost always work the 11 to 7 a.m. shift, but on Tuesday would take the mid-shift because we would have family night on Wednesdays. I assume it must have been Tuesday when this happened because my mom was in fact home. My mom worked a lot, and I mean 22 days out of the month, most months, so it was not uncommon for us to try to help when she needed a late cleaning. Or when she was up late cleaning. As I walked down the stairs, I noticed that all the lights in the house downstairs were off. Just the kitchen light was on. This already had me running for the kitchen because our walls were a deep green. As I mentioned before, my mom worked the late shift. My dad purposely painted the living room area dark colors so that when the lights were out and the blackout curtains were closed, it would be dark enough for my mom to fall asleep after work. As I entered the kitchen, my mom was at the sink. When I thought about it afterward, I only heard the radio going downstairs, not the sink. But she was washing dishes when I walked in. Her back was turned to me, so I couldn't see her face. I asked, "Mom, do you want help cleaning?" She didn't answer me. I asked a second time with a bit of moaning as an answer. This did not immediately alarm because it didn't sound like a zombie moaning. That's what it takes, huh? More like a, I don't know, kind of moan, if that makes sense. So I just replied, "Okay, if you want help, just let me know." She didn't turn around, but kind of stiffened a bit, so I took it as my cue to get out and let her be. Sometimes she just wanted to clean in peace as she worked with older people. Many would die on her watch. My mom is a dedicated nurse when it comes to her patients, because she used to work in a rehabilitation center. Many of these patients would get dropped off by their families and literally never see them again. She would often take us to see them when she could, so they could feel like somebody cared for them. So still, no alarms went off as I walked back toward the stairs. I assumed somebody may have died. She was simply sad and wanted to be left alone. When I hit the corner to round and go up the stairs, everything in the kitchen shut off at once. The radio, the sink, the lights, all of it. My boy, when I tell you I ran up those stairs to my room, I was gone. Zoomed past my brother's and parents' room and ran into mine. slammed my door shut, jumped underneath my covers. I was thinking, this is the fucking end. My parents are big horror fans. Didn't believe in shielding us from stuff like that because they want us to understand the difference in what was real and what was not. No matter what, God is there and will protect us. I did not feel God that night. Suddenly I hear my room door bust open. My mom yells at me for running up the stairs, thinking I'd gone and grabbed candy or something and ran up the stairs to avoid her. I said, "No, Mom, you scared me when you turned everything off." And she was like, "What are you talking about?" I tell her what just happened. She tells me I must have dreamt it up and quickly tucks me in and closes my door. The next day I asked her why she would do that to me. She knows I'm scared of the dark. I truly thought she just thought it wasn't as funny to me when she saw how scared I was or something and just tucked me in to calm me down. She then tells me that she was in her room. She had gotten home, took off her shoes, went straight to her room. She never went into the kitchen and never heard me go down the stairs, but instead assumed my brother had left me down there because I fell asleep, as they used to do it knowing I was scared of the dark and thought it was funny. When I ask her about it now, she only vaguely remembers this happening. My brothers had bad experiences in this house as well. He believed me. The common factor I find in our stories is that they all had to do with downstairs. None of us ever had scary stuff happen upstairs, but generally agree something was weird about the kitchen and the fireplace. The stories always seem to include one or both of those two things. I still don't know to this day who or what I spoke to. And a quick shout out to the lady working that particular shift, coming home and doing dishes, or at least having the reputation of doing something like that. Help her with the dishes, come on. I do them. Do you guys ever feel like you're not alone in your own home, even when everyone is gone? Because I always feel like I'm being watched, I know my grandmother's house is known for creepy things. And guys, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes my grandmother creeps me out too. One night I came out of my room around 3 a.m. It was almost 4. She was sitting next to her door, just staring at me, not saying anything, then closed her door. I got so many chills on my body. Mother always talks about how she would see black figures walk to my grandmother's room, open the door and closing it. Not once, but more than once, and my mother ex-husband. I'm assuming mother's ex-husband said the same things. I've also heard him at 4 a.m., like heavy boots walking in the hallway, then stop like it's at my door, and then just silence. Guys, help, what do you think's going on? I honestly believe that my house is haunted, but not the normal haunt, but only when it wants to come out and do things haunted. Indeed. I most definitely believe that the man with the boots, that's what I call him, lives in my basement. Mostly because me and my sister have heard him walk up the steps, and my sister sleeps in the basement. She hears him walking around. And one time she said that she heard her doorknob turn like somebody was trying to open it. That's why she always locks her door when she's sleeping. She's afraid of the basement, and everyone in the house is. But my grandmother, she is the only one who denies that we have a ghost. My toddler sees ghosts. A couple of months ago, my daughter, who was about to turn 3, started talking about ghosts. At first, I didn't really pay it any mind, since she likes Halloween decorations and stuff. She'd always point out the ghosts or the pumpkins or witches when she saw them. Then she began to talk about ghosts. She would do this without referring to any decor, or really anything she could visibly point out. Still, I didn't think much about it. About a month or so ago, she began getting more specific about the ghosts that she saw. First, it was a quote-unquote baby ghost. She saw this at my mother-in-law's sister's house. She kept pointing at a door at the top of the stairs and insisting that there was a baby ghost, which freaked out my mother-in-law's sister, mostly because they'd been in the room that she had a miscarriage in about 20 years prior. Then things got weirder. My cousin Randall passed away suddenly. That was when my daughter was only 12 days old, so she never got to meet him. We don't frequently talk about him and don't have photos of him around here for her to see. And it's not a name that she picked up randomly on a TV show or something. About 2 weeks ago, she was rambling on about ghosts in her closet, scaring them away while I was doing laundry. I wasn't paying much attention until she started pointing over at a window and saying, "Look, it's Randall." Immediately, I'd asked her what she just said. She said his name again. I started trying to ask her more questions regarding Randall. She was into the next topic and didn't mention him again after that. A couple of days later, my mother-in-law told me that while babysitting that day, my daughter told her that she was playing peekaboo with a ghost. My mother-in-law asked her if the ghost had a name. She said that the ghost's name was Randall. I decided to show her a photo of him to see if she had, anything to say. She was extremely terrified of him. Thought maybe she was just cranky, so I showed her a photo of one of her dogs, and immediately she perked up and started smiling. So I showed her a different photo of him. Again, she began to freak out. After telling a friend of mine about it, she asked me if I'd tried showing her a photo of him as a child. So I pulled one up of him around 12 years old and showed my daughter. She didn't say anything but started to giggle and walk away. After that, I decided to show her one of his old shirts that I have. Immediately, she grabbed it out of my hand with excitement and said, "Peekaboo, I see you." Am I being haunted, or is this something different? I feel like I'm going insane. I've lived in my house my entire life. It's a 2-story brick home with wooden floors and a 2-room extension on the back of it. That's looking out into a backyard. That's where I live. I have my bedroom and my lounge room that are connected. There's direct entry into the lounge room through the back door that comes from the yard. And it's important to note that my bedroom window is on the 2nd story. My 6'8" partner had to be on his tippy toes to touch the glass of my window. For quite a while, I've felt incredibly uneasy being home alone, whether it's during the day or at night. My partner and I chalked it up to poor mental health, considering nobody else in my family seemed to notice anything was off. And another point of note. All the women in my family, including me, have experienced something of the paranormal in their lives. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I woke up to what I believe to be the sound of my back door handle being played with. It's an old squeaky glass and wood door with metal handles. Very distinct sound. After being frozen in place for quite a while, I then turned into bed and faced my window, grabbed my phone. I have horrible eyesight. But what I believe I saw was a tall, white, skinny figure right at the back of my yard near my dad's shed. Rubbed it off as a trick of the mind. I went back to bed after shutting all the curtains. Another note. I used to always sleep with my curtains open until this instant. A few days ago, I was laying in bed watching TikToks. It was about 1 a.m. and I hadn't slept yet. I also really wasn't tired at all. My curtains were closed, but my window was open. My phone was on full brightness and my volume was loud too. When I eventually turned off my phone and rolled over, I heard a very clear, distinct knocking on my bedroom window. It was knuckles on glass. After being completely frozen for about 3 to 5 minutes, I rolled over and called my dad. Call went to voicemail. After the voicemail tone rang out, I heard shuffling and movement from underneath my window. Dad eventually came in with a floodlight torch. Nothing. My partner was worried about a stalker, so we set up a Ring camera. There's been nothing yet, not even a single animal. I'm house sitting currently, but I visited home at around maybe 2 p.m. yesterday. Home alone, front door was locked, back door was open, and I was repotting a plant in my yard. I've had really good mental health recently, so I know my feelings aren't really attributed to that. Sitting in the backyard, I thought I could hear walking around in the house behind me. I distinctly remember being too scared to look at the back of the house from the yard. I got cold all over, like my body froze up. I feel okay being in my room or my lounge room, but the rest of the house gives me a deep, uneasy feeling that nags at me constantly when I'm alone. My entire life has always known what I've been watching, and well, I get sharp tingling down my spine. It can happen at random, but it is always followed by that incredibly intense, uneasy feeling. Yesterday I was driving back to my house. I was about 10 minutes away when I got a notification from my Ring camera. It said, "Person was detected in my backyard." My partner gets the notification on his phone as well. He calls me straight away. His first words were, "Hey, I've just checked the footage. There's literally nothing there. Can you please FaceTime me when you get to your house? Something feels really off." And keep in mind, my Ring camera does have pretty poor quality because it's a fisheye lens, but it was also around 2 p.m. So a person would have been very easy to see. Next, I arrive at home. Instantly, I see that my side of the gate is half open. I call each member of my family. No one has left through the side gate this morning. Call my dad, he told me to call the police. He told me to wait in my car with the doors locked. Both him and my partner left work to come to my house after I phoned the police and told them I was worried about somebody in my house. Okay, so typically the police, didn't show up. My dad and my partner did, however. We all went through the backyard and did a sweep of the entire house. Nothing. My partner and I replayed the footage from when we got the person detection notification, but this time we turned the sound on. Clear as day, you can hear my back screen door being shook twice, or pulled at or something, which I found really weird because the screen door wasn't locked, meaning somebody would have to be able to open it instead of just shaking it. This was instance number 2. Instance number 2. My partner, my dad, and I were all sitting in the office, the furthest part of the house compared to my room in the back door. We were there for probably about 20 minutes. That was until my dad left to go buy more cameras to set up around the house. Then it was just my partner and I. So, we sat together in the living room while he was setting up to do online work for like a meeting. He had fled work to come home to my house. He was reviewing some more footage from roughly the same time we're all in the office. We both heard scratching coming off my window security screen, followed by the same 4 knocks that I heard last week. Freaked me the hell out, considering nobody heard anything in the office, but it was clear as day on the recording. As the camera faces outside, you'd be able to see if anybody was doing it on the outside of my window, meaning that it had to be coming from inside my bedroom. I want you all to remember that all the footage I'm talking about, I've downloaded it onto my phone, so I have solid evidence of each of these events. I won't be sharing as it shows my entire backyard. The 3rd instance, and also technically the 4th, I went back into my bedroom to scope it out, and also to check for hidden cameras. Yeah, I'm paranoid. My partner just left to go to the bathroom, which is also at the opposite end of the house. This was the only time I'd been left completely alone since being home. My curtains and windows were completely open as it was 2 p.m. during the day. Nothing happened to me while I was in there, but my boyfriend came sprinting out of the bathroom holding more footage from the Ring camera. This time you could clearly hear heavy breathing and what we both thought sounded like someone licking their lips. Now, because of how clearly we heard it, it means that it would have had to come from directly next to or in front of the Ring camera. The camera being at least 7 feet off the ground, would have been able to capture anything visible around it because of the fisheye. And again, nothing on the camera, just the sound. I also didn't hear anything while I was in my room. We had previous footage of a howling gale of wind hitting the camera as we wanted to compare. This was even louder than that. While I was alone in my room, I did something stupid. I know it was stupid, but I was afraid and my better judgment went out the window. I sat on my bed and said to my mom, or rather, to my room, "You're not welcome here. I'm not afraid of you." Completely forgot I said that, until my partner and I were leaving my room after reviewing the footage. We heard a crack coming from behind us. Turn around and my little Lego cat that my boyfriend built me. It's been thrown across the room and was laying perfectly in the floor. There was no wind and this cat was on the highest shelf in my room, so it couldn't have been locked. My partner also picked it up and dropped it from knee height and it shattered instantly. But it hadn't been moved halfway across the room, still in perfect condition. That was the last straw for me. We both bolted out of the house, haven't been back since. No one else in my family has experienced anything. This is the most activity I've experienced in my entire life. I'm not Christian or Catholic, so I don't think Jesus is helping me out with this one. His name would hold no power because I don't believe. I think whatever it is malicious, not getting good intention vibes. What are we thinking now? My father passed in early May 2024. Now his bedroom door keeps opening. Here's some quick information. I'm not a huge believer in ghosts, but I think there are definitely things we may not understand or are capable of understanding with our senses. My father passed away on May 5th, and I brought his ashes back home on May 29th. He was renting a room next door to mine and passed away in the same room he rented. The last few nights and weeks around the same time, 11 p.m. to 12:30 a.m., I hear footsteps. Then I hear his door opening. We have other roommates, but they're family and really have no reason to go in there as the room is stripped clean of anything important. I trust my family enough to know that they wouldn't mess with me or steal anything of value or look for anything. And also, his door is a little bit messed up. It requires some force to open it if you have to move it a certain way, which is always loud. Anyways. For the past week or so, on some nights, I hear someone is going in there. One of the roommates is a longtime family friend. He's renting that room now, but is currently sleeping on the couch until he can afford a bed. Last night I heard heavy footsteps and somebody opening the door at around 12. I remember thinking, who keeps going in there? It's probably the new roommate checking his room out or something. Keep in mind, I know everybody for about 20 plus years. There's nothing valuable left in the room. Anyways, I went to work this morning, and the roommate on the couch asked me if I went to my dad's room last night. I said no, thought that was you. He said no, but the lamplight is on. The door is wide open. I've been hearing that same thing for the past weeks off and on, and only one person, my cousin who lives with us, said that he went in there. They only did it once to check for the house key that he had around 10 o'clock. I'm not a huge believer in ghosts, but knowing that I've been hearing somebody going in the room for the past few weeks around the same time is weirding me out. Didn't think much of it because we have our family friend now renting it. Maybe he wants to check it out, but I'm doubtful as he has a hard time walking. I'm wondering if my father's not moved on. Can someone with experience explain this? What does it mean when people stick around? That answer depends heavily on your culture, actually. Strange morphing shadow encounter in England. He was walking in our neighborhood around 6:30 a.m. Saw the shadow of a crow on the ground. After watching it for a few seconds, he realized there's nothing to cast the shadow. It started walking across the street, morphed into the shape of a cat before disappearing. He said it feels almost like it was an amorphous shadow shape that his brain tried to make sense of. Because of the area, my brain went to elementals as a possibility, or that kind of nature spirit. There's a very old cemetery nearby as well, about a block or so over from this spot. And I have an experience that I want to add, even though it's not anything out of the ordinary on its own. So it would sort of be for people who believe in this kind of thing. On a random day later on, that same area lost a hat that he had bought me. We looked everywhere, retraced our steps too. I was really upset. Gave up and walked home, but I got an urge to go back and retrace our steps one more time. I found my hat hanging on a fence in the exact same spot that he'd seen the shadow. A few feet away, there's a blackbird on the fence. Again, nothing crazy on its own. The only thing that makes me really think of it is, well, I immediately thought about his experience and had the strangest, most overwhelming urge to thank the bird. Regardless of the situation, if you do see a bird, you thank that bird. Ghosts involved or not. That's my policy. Seeing ghosts. I've seen my friend's grandfather after he passed away. I've seen things like this my entire life, so not much scares me these days. I was walking my female friend out from the backyard. We walked down the driveway and I felt like somebody was staring at me. Turned around and saw her grandfather. There's some other guy with him standing in the doorway of the gate that we had just exited. His entire body was blue, which to me means he was in a neutral emotional state. So I wasn't scared. The guy standing next to him was tall and bald. He had 2 big tattoos on each forearm. I couldn't make them out for some reason, they were kind of blurry. I could see both people very clearly. My friend's hand was on her door to open it. "Wait, hand on man?" I said. "What?" she replied. "I have to tell you something, and I'm really sorry because it's about your grandpa. I know you're going to think I'm lying, but I'm not, I swear." "What?" she said. "What is it?" "He's here, man. He's right there at the gate. He's with your friend." She started crying profusely. "Don't fuck around, Phil," she shouted. I grabbed her shoulders with tears in my eyes and said, "I swear to you, man, I'm not messing with you. He's here and I need to tell you something." "Fine, what do you want to say?" "Your grandpa's here with your friend. He's wearing some slacks, a hat, and he's leaning on his cane to the left side. Your friend's here too. They want me to tell you that your grandpa's okay and he's in peace. He's with your friend, and they're also okay. They wanted me to tell you that they love you and not to worry about them. All she said was okay. We sat in the driveway for a bit, both crying. I'm sorry I said I was sorry for making her cry. Or I'm sorry, I said. I was in fact sorry for making her cry. I didn't know how she would take it. I told her about seeing things in the past, but never like this. We sat in my little trailer in the back. I used to sort of call it my love shack, as it was my little party pad for a short amount of time. It was my grandparents' backyard. She came over again about 1 week later. She was determined to debunk me. She showed me about 3 different pictures of some skinny white guys in overalls. I said, "Okay, who's that?" She said, "You don't recognize him?" I said, "No." "This dude isn't fat, and plus he doesn't even have the tattoos like I told you. This can't be him." "Okay, hang on." She's searching for more pictures. She showed me one last picture. "That's him." "What?" she said. "That's him. That's your friend, right?" She started crying. "That's the last picture we have of him. That's more close to how he looked when he died. And that, my friend Tim, I don't remember his name, he got his tattoos when he was in the Marines. The picture I showed you first was of him, but before he joined the Marines and gained weight. His tattoos are a globe and an anchor on one forearm, and on the other anchor with an eagle. On the other arm, an anchor with an eagle. I couldn't make out the tattoos, but I knew they were pretty big, and I knew the exact placement. She hugged me and said, "Thank you." Ghost tried to kill my friend. This was one of the worst experiences I've ever had. I hope somebody can use this, and stay safe out there. I've always been able to see entities. I've called them demons and spirits. This was since I was a child. I see demons or evil spirits and entities as black shadow figures that, to me, look like Slowiest. Never heard that one. They looked like Slowiest. I've developed my skills over the years of how to see and understand these things. I was living in a homeless shelter at the time. It was religious, based on had a drug rehabilitation program for convicts. Lots of bad people. I would constantly see demons following people. I hated it. Like a shadow figure's following you. It's a very bad thing. I was in a program for homeless men that would help us by providing a workplace, and they would fund the meals and housing as well as providing food and local resources to help us get things like health insurance. It was separated from the general population homeless that were housed across the hall in an open bay. One night I was woken up by an evil spirit. Sat up in my bunk and tried to focus. It was inside the room, just staring at my buddy in the bunk across from me. Yes, Gecko. I knew it had very bad intentions, and I was on edge. The evil spirit wanted to hurt my friend. I could feel it. My stomach dropped, and I said to myself, "Please don't woke up. Just keep sleeping." I had to get that thing away from him, so I jumped up out of my bunk and I sat right in front of my friend's bunk. I closed my eyes and began to focus. I needed to get this thing away from us as soon as possible. I didn't want any one of us to get hurt either. I sat and began to pray. I told the spirit, "You're not welcome here. I call now in the name of God and His Son, Jesus Christ." It screamed, sounded like a loud screeching that just cut right to the bone. I laughed, smiling. This was nothing new. I continued on. I command you to leave now in the name of God. Bless this room and cast out any evil here. My eyes shut and I focused deeply into my prayer. The spirit came up to the chair and stood in front of me. I opened my eyes and looked directly at its head. That's right, I said. You got no power here. I dare you. It shot over to my side. I looked over my shoulder. I said, go on, I said. I knew that demons in the Bible aren't allowed to have physical contact with humans, and possession is very taboo. It only ends with the demon's demise, so they rarely do it. It placed its hand directly above my shoulder like it was trying to grab me and possess me, but it stopped about 4 inches away from me. I knew it couldn't do it. I was protected, and I knew it. I focused again, closed my eyes, started praying again, more directly. I commanded the spirit to leave the room in the name, and it had worked. Now the spirit was in the hall, and it was pissed. It was pacing up and down the hallways, back and forth. I started smiling again and taunting it. You can't come in, I said. The spirit shit down the hallway. I could feel where it was going. It went down the hall to the men's restroom, stopped at the last stall and seemed to be waiting. That's weird, I thought. I thought you said it shit down the hallway. Anyway. Then out of nowhere, my friend shot up in bed. I've never seen anybody wake up like this. He went from dead asleep to sitting straight up in about 1 second. Scared the crap out of me. He woke up with his eyes as wide as the moon. I was shook. Why did he just wake up? He jumped off his bunk. I was shaking in fear. Alarm bells were blaring in my head. I have to tell him to stop. No way, how could I? This dude would think I'm insane. Oh, hey, there's an evil spirit in the restroom. Just don't go down there. Yeah, right, I guess I couldn't say that either. He left the room, walked down the hall. My heart was beating out of my chest. This thing is going to kill this guy. I didn't know what to do, so I jumped off my bunk and ran toward the hall. As I broke the threshold, they mean the threshold, I slammed into my buddy. Whoa. He just glanced at me and jumped back in his bunk. I was so relieved it came back. Thank God. The next day I talked to my buddy about what happened. When I got to the restroom part, he stopped me. Wait, which stall? He said. The end. Last night I woke up from a dead sleep. I didn't know why. I had to pee. Oh, I guess. Went to the restroom. He looked into my eyes when I went to the restroom. Went to the very last stall and sat on the toilet, dressed, just sitting. I stated hearing voices last night as I was sitting there. Probably started. I was going to slit my fist and kill myself last night. Wrist. The voices were convincing me, and I wanted to do it, but I don't know why I didn't. Thank you for telling me. I believe you. The whole morning I saw black shadows filling him. It wanted him dead. I told him, please, whatever you got planned for today, change it up. That thing for last night is trying to hurt you. Please be aware of your surroundings and be careful. That night, one of the other guys came up to me. Hey, did you hear what happened to your friend? What? My buddy had gotten hit by a truck, broke his leg. Felt awful, like it was my fault. I warned him, I said. My eyes began to water. Then from behind, I hear, hey, it's my buddy. Dude, what the fuck happened? He told me that he had an appointment that day. He was on the way there riding a bike when he felt somebody was watching him, so he turned around. He said he saw what could only be described as a shadow of a person driving this truck. It was heading right for him. He went onto the sidewalk and began to run for his life. The truck cut straight for him, dashing through street signs and trees. My friend said that he wasn't fast enough. He got hit. The driver backed up and fled. My buddy got picked up and taken to the hospital. I was in tears. So sorry, man. Please forgive me. You saved my life, man. Thank you. I just sobbed. Okay. That's all I said. I knew it was my fault somehow. He was okay after a few weeks and some crutches. I never forgot him after that day, and I swore I'd never stay quit again. Wow, I ended it on a weird sentence. My fair man. A ghost visits every night and works at his old station. We both worked at a large music brand company that made guitars. He tells me that the senior member of our team told him about the man. He said his spirit visits every night at around closing time. If you hear loud music in a machine, don't worry about it. That's so-and-so, he's a ghost. He's friendly. He tells me that there used to be an old man that worked in a machine shop before he was hired. The man had passed away having a heart problem at work, maybe a heart attack or possibly a mental-like stroke. He later passed away at the hospital. The machine shop had moved and we took over the old shop. He went to lock up the shop one night and heard what sounded like a grinder or some other machine that was left on. As he got closer, he began to hear Mexican music blasting loud. Once he heard the music, he instantly remembered the story of the ghost. "Nope," he yelled, turned around, locked the door behind him, clocked out. That. This seemed to only happen when he locked up later than usual. He said he never forgot to lock up on time after. Experiences in my childhood home. In my hometown and parents' home, I had some strange experiences in the basement. I don't like to talk about them out loud because I feel like it's inviting whatever it was around. If anybody has any information about these experiences, what it was or what it means, it would be greatly appreciated. I heard the TV slightly above my basement bedroom blaring. I screamed upstairs to my siblings or whoever to turn it off. I had to work or school or something the next morning. I waited for a while with no response, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. I stomped upstairs ready to scold whoever, and it was dark with no TV on. Everyone was asleep. I ran back down to my room. I felt somebody sit down on my bed while I was laying on it. You could feel the weight of the side of the bed, but nothing was there. I looked into the darkness at the end of the room, and I could see a person with a pilgrim-type hat, like a shadow in the dark. I know this is common with sightings, but what is it? I heard knocking on my door loudly at night. Got up to answer, no one was there. I remember waking up at exactly 3:30 a.m. A lot. And I know that's bad in movies, but it also can be attributed to something hormonal in your body. That's when you just tend to wake up. I got sick of these experiences, so I moved myself to the spare room on the second floor, much smaller and closer to the parents, which isn't fun for a college kid, but it did all stop. Why only in the basement? Why in a brand new build? Nothing ever hurt me, so I think it was harmless, but that being said, I don't want to experience that again. You can't always get what you want. That's what they say. My uncle's funeral from 2 decades ago. I just wanted to share a bizarre incident that happened during my uncle's funeral when I was younger, 15 or 20 years ago. As we mourned his untimely passing due to alcoholism, there was a surreal moment that still haunts me to this day. Well, I only remembered this memory because I watched American Horror Stories. Among the attendees was a stranger, perhaps one of my uncle's drinking buddies. They inexplicably started snapping photos of him in the casket. Right at that moment, the lights near the casket began flickering uncontrollably, sending a chill down everyone's spine. The stranger hastily pocketed his phone, visibly shaken, while the rest of us puzzled over the sudden electrical disturbance. The lights other than the one near the casket weren't affected in any way. Was it a mere coincidence? A glitch in the system? Maybe something more supernatural. Some dismissed it as a random electrical malfunction, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it. To this day, I still wonder, was it just an electrical hiccup, or did my uncle have a message for the intruding photographer from beyond the grave? This memory is as clear as day, and no way could I have exaggerated what I saw that day. When photographers see the moment, they do jump up and try to catch it like a Pokemon, huh? Working in a haunted house. I always believed that paranormal experiences are just science people haven't figured out yet. When I was about 8, I had an experience where I saw a hooded figure float across my bedroom, disappeared through my closet. I ran to a friend's home while saying over and over, "This was real. I don't think this wasn't real." For a long time, that was my only story about weird occurrences. I'm 29 now, and I don't know what to believe about that memory. But my own words are what make me believe it was real. About 3 years ago, I began working in a specialized care home, a group home for high-risk children and youth. While I finished up my master's of social work, that's what I was doing. I worked overnights, 10-hour shifts, 4 on, 4 off. One of the houses I worked in, we'll call it K2. K2 is a big old house that was built around 100 years ago. Well, about 6 years ago, an overnight worker died of a heart attack. He was found in one of the hallways curled up into a ball. Ever since then, the night workers have followed each other, and they do kind of these check-ins every 2 hours throughout the night for my safety. My first night in the house was bizarre. There were 2 kids living there, one in the basement suite and one upstairs. The kiddo upstairs had autism and nonverbal and occasionally violent. But bonus, they sleep all night and don't require much overnight care. The other one was pretty much going AWOL at night, off to their friends' homes or to their dealer's place. I don't remember if they were home that night, but they often weren't. It was around 2 a.m. when I started hearing this weird sound, like distant seagulls and whispers overlapping. First, I thought it was the kiddo's sound machine, which played thunder noises every time I got up to check the machine. The noises would stop and the sounds were just rolling thunder again. This continued on and off for at least an hour until it didn't stop when I got up. I walked toward the kiddo's room, but the whispers sounded like they were behind me as I entered the hallway. Turned around, walked down the hall to the front door, and listened. I was positive that the sound was coming from people talking in the street or the driveway. So I opened the door. Instantly, the noises stopped and the floor beneath me creaked. I was freaked out. I was probably just imagining it, right? I know what I heard, but I don't know what it meant, and I still had hours to go on my night shift. The whispers didn't come back, and I went on my way. I still took shifts, and occasionally joked that if there were ghosts, then I'd tell them about my life on shift, and they'd be the ones getting the short end of the stick. It was only last year when something occurred that had me thinking. The most reasonable explanation for this is paranormal. This night, I was alone in the house. One kiddo had just moved out to a foster placement, and the other was spending their weekly night at their parents' place. On these nights, I prepare meals and deep clean. I had unlocked the pantry door by not opening it yet. I'd forgotten my meal list in the kitchen, walked down the hall to get it. Suddenly, there was a huge bang. I froze and stood there for a moment before walking back down the hall. The pantry door was wide open. Thought it was maybe the wind, except there's no windows open in this hallway, had no immediate access to outside. Maybe the house shifted, except that I couldn't see the house shifting enough to swing the door open. I grabbed the door and found that it was stuck. It was completely wedged into the floor. It took me pulling my entire body weight to get it to dislodge, and I landed hard on my ass. Stood up and brushed myself off and went back to look at the door. This time, when I swung it out, it barely touched the ground, enough to make a slight scraping noise, but not enough for it to become wedged. I still take shifts there, and small things still happen a lot, like the radio turning on and static and lights flickering. Little tiny people. I'm freaking out. My partner and I were touring the community of townhouses that we'll be moving into. This community has no gym, but posts around the community a trail that'll take you from a monkey bar to something else. Kind of like a treasure hunt with exercise machines. It was 11:30 p.m. and we were kind of walking and exploring and reaching this last machine. This machine was fully afar from everything else. Lots of trees kind of foresty behind it. We see the trail sign and we start walking to it. Behind the sign there was this big box, kind of looked like maybe something electrical inside, I don't know. Anyway, as we reach the sign, my partner turns his flashlight on. We try to read the sign. The flashlight kind of lights the box behind and he sees something, so he yells, "Hey!" Immediately I look as well, and there's this tiny figure that looked like a person, maybe as high as my knees. My partner immediately starts running and grabs my arm and freaked out starts running too. He wanted to keep exploring and I just wanted to leave. Felt like throwing up. Little dude kind of started standing up and was about to wave, I think, but it was a couple of seconds until I ran. His movements were very human. I'm scared as hell. What did we see? Nightmare in a hotel. I don't remember the year this happened, but it was many years ago, around 2014. Me and my mom had to go to India, Mumbai, join my dad in a cheap hotel. I don't remember the reasons, I was very young. I loathe bugs and lack of hygiene. That hotel was disgusting. The floor our room was on was cold and quiet, which is rare for being in Mumbai, a loud-ass city. The room was tiny with double white bed to the left and a disgusting washroom to the right and a small table in front of the bed next to the door. The moment I walked in, I knew I was going to hate it. But anyways, there were bugs crawling on the bed, the washroom, and coming in through the small window above the bed, which was very lovely. We were tired, and we retired to bed. I was scared already. Wouldn't let my parents switch the light off. And every few half hours or so, I would wake up again and again. I had a nightmare where a shadowy person floated out of the washroom and lingered over me while my parents were stood in the door open, trying to figure out why the water wasn't working. The shadowy figure was a woman. I was sure of it. It lingered for a while before I woke up. My parents were asleep and I was in the middle, and I was scared to sleep next to the washroom. I was so overwhelmed I started crying and begging for my dad to change hotels. We weren't fortunate in terms of money, and my parents were pretty strict, but they were firm. In these situations, they would usually make me understand, but that night they saw I was very troubled, and we changed hotels the next day. I don't believe this was paranormal, but sure did scare the shit out of me, still does. I never, ever want to step into that hotel ever again. I have to say I don't usually trust my intuition, which is proved wrong again and again. I had a strong gut feeling in this room. I have a strong feeling something bad happened there, but my practical mind says let's not assume that far. You slept on a bed with bugs on it? Bad move. Some bugs are cute, but no bug is cute on a bed. Cat that wasn't a cat. This happened to me a few months ago. I was homeless at the time, so I'd be out a lot at night, just wandering or at parks until morning. One night my friend and I had been on our way to a park that we'd frequent. It was pretty late at this point, but not unreasonable. About 1 a.m. we were nearly there. We were walking down the sidewalk when my friend noticed a white cat following us. We turned to go and pet it. It was about 50 feet behind us. When we both turned, it immediately started meowing pretty loudly. But I've been around cats most of my life, and I know they can do some crazy vocal stuff. Get real loud in that. We got about 10 feet to it. It was just standing staring at us, and its meows got louder and more frequent as we got closer. That's when my friend said, "Dude, there's something wrong with that cat." I wasn't really sure, but my friend seemed really nervous, so I was like, yeah, whatever. We just decided to turn back around and continue to the park. The cat didn't seem to like that. Can't explain how, because like I said, I'm aware cats can do strange things with their sounds, especially if they're sick or something. But the noises it was making were very wrong, and I could tell that it was angry. After that, the whole thing just had a strong, visceral sense of wrongness. Made me and my friend completely panicked. I said something like, "Oh fuck man, this isn't right." Me and my friend just started running toward the park. Once we crossed the street away from it, I started sort of jogging back every 10 feet or so. Wanted to keep my eyes on it, but it was just standing there and its meowing kept getting more loud and wrong. It almost ended up as a sort of half-hearted scream with pauses every few seconds. At least as we were getting away from it, we started slowly going down, more backing away, sort of walking to keep our eyes on it to make sure it wasn't following. And I swear to God I was sure it was growing bigger instead of smaller the further we got away. Our reactions might seem drastic, but I really can't explain how strong the feeling of some kind of sinister wrongness this cat had. The noises and its behavior and size were one thing, but mostly it was the weird dread and panic that came on so suddenly when we got closer. That's what freaked us out. We told everybody that we knew about this cat for days afterwards. Does anybody know what kind of thing this cat might have really been? No one in the world could convince me that this was a real cat. I've had other strange cat-related experiences in that neighborhood, but none so scary and, well, sort of confrontational. Throwing it out there, ventriloquist cat. What the hell did I see? When I was about 6 years old, I stayed at my grandmother's quite frequently. She lived in a trailer, or mobile home, whatever you want to call it. The washroom and living room were on the opposite side of the trailer. One day I walked to the end of the hallway to use the washroom. When I looked inside to find the light switch and turn it on, I'd seen my cousin who sometimes visit my grandma's. They looked me directly in the eye. She put her finger up to her lips like this. Emoji with fingers up to lips, as if to say shh. She wasn't really completely silent. She then got on her hands and knees and crawled behind the counter and out of sight. I felt a feeling of dread and instantly knew this wasn't my cousin or even a human being for that matter. I took off running and screaming for my grandma, and we searched the entire trailer together. It was only us in there. While we searched, I told her I'd seen my cousin in there, and she told me not to be silly. My cousin's not visiting town, she's home, which is a couple of hours' drive away. Till this day, I don't know what I saw and why I saw it, or why it made the shh gesture. Second paranormal experience. When I was 9 years old, I woke up in bed late at night. The light was off in my room, but the hallway light was on. I currently get sleep paralysis at least once a month, but I'd never had it at this point in my life. I look in the hallway, nothing was there, began to rub my crusty eyes and look back up to see a tall, blacker-than-black shadow figure. At first, I thought it was my dad. Called out to it. It just stared at me and stayed silent. Once again, I called out Dad, and it remained silent and very slowly walked to the foot of my bed. One last time, I said Dad in a questioning-like manner. I began to slowly walk up the side of my bed and knew then that this thing was not my dad. I jumped up and ran to my parents' room and frantically told my mom to turn the lights on. She took her sweet time in doing so. I looked toward her bedroom door only to see the shadow enter her bedroom and start slowly walking toward me. I jumped over my mom onto the other side of the bed and the light turned on. There's nothing there, nobody at all, and my father wasn't in bed with her. At this point, I thought maybe I was wrong and it was my dad, seeing that he wasn't in bed with my mom. And when I asked my mom, she said that when I got called to work, my dad worked at a call time or worked on call at the time and could be called to work at any time. Thought maybe he had just gotten home, but he had not returned from work yet. It was only my mom and I there that night. Many experiences as a child, and now an adult. The Hat Man. My 23-year-old female paranormal experiences started when I was young. I don't even remember the age. The first thing I remember is that my sister, who shared the same room as me, would constantly sit up in her bed and call my name. I've always been a silent sleeper, so I'd sit up and ask her what she needed, to which she would reply nothing and go back to sleep and not even remember it the next morning. Could have been nothing, but I later learned that the times when she would wake up, my parents were fighting. They eventually divorced because my sister woke me up with this sleep talking. I heard them getting violent with each other. We both walked into their room to see it. Before they divorced, I woke up one day to find all of the lights in our bedroom on. We usually sleep with the nightlight. I've always told them that I could see things in the dark. As when I was younger, I saw a tall figure standing over me that I convinced myself were random things that my mind was playing tricks on me about. It would usually be a couple of shadow figures, and I remember them standing over my bed like they were watching me, which is why I insisted on having a nightlight well beyond the years that most kids did. I asked everyone in the house if they would turn the lights on. They said no. My kid brain told me it must have been aliens or something, because who would have gone into a room and turned the main closet door light on? The worst of it started after they divorced. I was 7 or 8. My mom hated my grandparents, but when they divorced, my dad could take us states away to Colorado to see them on holidays. I loved it because it felt peaceful to me till I would go into the basement, which is where my grandparents' bedroom was. They always left that door open. At first, they put my sister and I in an air mattress, but I would stay awake for most of the night because I could see a man standing on the stairs with a long coat and a fedora watching us. I would tell them every day, and it didn't change till my grandparents decided a couple of years later to just give us their bed and let us shut the door. The first time I came back to school in 5th grade, I told my friends that I kept seeing something. One of my friends said that she could too, and perfectly described this figure. Still don't know if she was lying, but from what she described, it was the exact same thing. By the time I was 11 or 12, I was obsessed with the paranormal. I was watching Ghost Adventures, Paranormal Stayed Dead Files, basically anything you could tell why one was terrorizing me. I had asked my parents long ago what they believed. My dad said nothing, which I later learned was a lie. My mom said that she believed things were around us, but couldn't really explain them. My dad's very religious. I don't speak to him anymore, but I feel that what happened to me or us changed his perspective, although he did invalidate it a lot. Then when I was in middle school, I convinced my dad to take us to a hotel like Ghost Adventures had been in our state or something. It was previously a hospital. My dad had gone there before. I guess he assumed nothing would happen. We went through the entire hotel with a video camera that his girlfriend owned at the time, and I remember us walking past a room that we later learned was the nursery. We were hearing a baby crying. Could have been someone staying there, but it'd be foolish to take a baby there. It's known as being extremely haunted in the middle of nowhere. My dad then told us that they were staying in the most haunted floor in one of the most haunted rooms. In one, my dad's girlfriend and her two youngest children stayed in the connected room. Me and my sister and his girlfriend daughter stayed. They told us we should go get dinner, so the three of us looked for a key, and I swear we put this on the table in the room, but we couldn't find it. My dad said that we must have forgot, but there's an experience book at the front desk, and according to that, it's happened many times in that room. Something knocked on her door. All three of us and my dad opened the door. Nobody was there, but the keys were hanging in the door. In the middle of the night, my stepsister got up and started screaming. I remember that the Winter Olympics were on the TV, because she ran out of the room and couldn't stay in that one anymore. In my freshman year of high school, I fell asleep on the phone with my boyfriend at the time. In the night, he swore he heard something talking to me. I told him that it might have been talking to myself, but he swears it was a man's voice. I kept my bedroom door shut and locked at the time, so no one could have gotten in. I got into more paranormal stuff from until I graduated in 2019 to now. I saw the Hat Man and I knew that it was something or something equivalent to it. That's whatever it is that I saw. And then, a couple of months ago, 2023-2024, I lived in my own apartment. I saw something. My apartment was set up in a way that my bedroom door faced the bathroom. I was sleeping, then woke up because something completely dark and fucked up was standing in the door. I sat up and stared at it. It was the same dark cloaked and fedora hat figure I'd seen before. This thing hovered from my bedroom door to the side of my bed. I freaked out. I fought. I turned in the bed and started kicking at it. I was wearing my Apple Watch at the time, and I have pictures proving that my heart rate was going through the roof and I was awake. Something came at me. You can believe me or not, I don't care, but this happened. Something has decided that it wants me. I want to investigate it so badly, and I promise it's probably my dog, but the people around me only halfway believe it. I don't want to put them in danger, but this is something, will. I need to know that it wants me. It's put me in danger and continue to. It'll come after me again, and I know it will. I've known since I first popped up that it wants me dead. I cannot forget it. I will continue to hunt whatever this is. We'll continue to hunt whatever he's doing. See ya.